Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Dina, and I have a segment I don't have very often, and that is haul. I also have Happy Mail, and so I thought I would just go ahead and film that for you today. I'm busily stitching away on my last prompt for the School of Magical Stitches extra credit today. I am working on my Simply Love piece. And so hopefully I'll be able to share that with you today or tomorrow. But today when the mailman came, he actually brought the mail to the door because he had a package for me. I had ordered a couple of patterns from 123 Stitch, and so it was, in a big enough envelope. Even though it was thin, it was too big to fit in the mailbox. So I got my mail hand delivered today. That was so nice. Our mailman is so kind. But one of the things that I got, in addition to what I had ordered, was a surprise. And I know that Pam and Steph have said this a couple of times, that when they have gifted people things, they get thank yous back, and that's not necessary. You don't have to do that, but we're so glad you did. I just want to thank this person. I don't have her permission to use her full name, so I'll just call her Deb. But Deb, I got your package today, and thank you so much. I love it. Deb won one of my celebratory giveaways for my reaching 4,000 subscribers, and she decided to do something as a thank you, which was very sweet. And so this is what Deb sent. She sent me this beautiful 28 count Queen Anne's lace. I've never had Queen Anne's lace. I've admired it when other people have been stitching with it and thought I might like to get a piece of that, and I just haven't yet. So this is the beautiful piece, and I already have an idea of something I might stitch on it, and I've got to check and see if it'll fit. So I'll let you know. But in addition to that, there are two Gentle Arts sampler threads that came with it. The Brown Bear and the Lexington Green. And don't these look beautiful? Not only together, but on this fabric. Deb, thank you. Very, very nice. I can't wait to use all three of these. So that was my Happy Mail. And then I did place a small order with 123 Stitch, and I was just looking for some seasonal patterns, things for my stash, looking toward next year, what I might like to stitch, and wondering what it is that I needed to, augment my stash with. And one of the things that I don't have a lot of pieces stitched yet, but I would like to have more of, is Thanksgiving. So this is a shepherd's bush pattern, and it's called Be Thankful. I'm sure you've seen it. I found this just scrolling through some of the seasonal patterns there online, and found this one and thought, I really like it. It is so cute. And I noticed that there are buttons. I haven't ordered the buttons. I thought I might just look at Joann's and see if there's some pumpkin buttons there, but if not, then I can order these at a later time. But I wanted to grab the pattern while I could. I think that will be a fairly simple stitch. Doesn't look like it would be too hard to finish, and so I'm hoping I might be able to actually get it done even this year for Thanksgiving if I can squeeze it in. If not, definitely for next year. Might make a good mania start for next year. And I love to contribute to my 4th of July collection every year. And this year I didn't get to make anything for 4th of July. And as it turns out, my smalls exchange that I got at StitchCon was a patriotic piece, and it's been on my mantle ever since. I guess it's almost time to take it down now, but I loved it, and so I've got it up there. I have a small tree with all my patriotic ornaments on it, but I was thinking I would like to have something new to do next year that's patriotic to add to everything. So this is what I ordered. This is called Brave Flags. It's designed by Terry Richards. And it is also a shepherd's bush piece. You can tell I was on their site, can't you? But I just really liked that one. It also has buttons, which I have not ordered. I may see what I have available locally first, but I'm trying to be frugal because I'm doing Stitch from Stash. But I ended up the year in December last year with quite a balance in my account, not thinking that it doesn't carry over. Not in December, I'm sorry, in June this year. That was the first half of the year. So I got to the end of June and I had this huge balance in my account. I could have really gone on a shopping spree, and I didn't get to carry it forward. So I thought this year, for the second half of the year, I need to buy a few things along the way so I don't get to the end of the year and have, been scrimping and saving and then never do anything about it. And then I've just showed you in my last video my finish of Christmas tea, and I thought those little mice were absolutely precious. That Brenda Gervais pattern was great, and so I found a companion piece to it, and this is called Plum Pudding. Isn't that precious? I was enabled to get this by somebody on FlossTube. I don't remember who exactly now it was that I saw stitching it, but as soon as I saw it, I said, there's my mice. I have to go get that to be a companion piece with Christmas tea. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna stitch it up, and I like the pillow. I may make it a pillow. I thought I was gonna make the last one a pillow, and I wound up framing it. So I'm going to save that piece of paper that tells me the frame name and the mat name and everything, because if I decide to do this one the same way, I'm going to frame it the exact same way so that they really are a set. I'll have to look at the size to see what these pieces look like. It might be that I would need to shift these two little mice and stitch them across here to see if they would come out about the same size as the other piece. We'll see. But anyway, I think it's precious. Brenda Gervais, it's With Thy Needle and Thread is who she designs under, and that's Plum Pudding. So cute. So that's my haul. I don't share a lot of haul because I try really hard to stitch from stash, and usually when I buy something to go with a particular product, you're going to see it when I start that project anyway, so I don't necessarily share it with you till I'm ready to use it. But today I had these little pieces and I want to put them away in my stash. I'm already getting the itch to look through everything and start making plans for next year. So don't be surprised if in about a month I don't come to you and say, this is what I'm planning on doing next year. That's just the way I am. I plan ahead. Now, that doesn't mean I didn't change my mind, but I start planning early anyway. I hope you're having a great day of stitching. I'm going to work really hard to hit my 500 stitches today. I've done about 180 so far, so I'm just getting started. And but I have all afternoon and evening. My son is what they call late stay today at work, which means if there's a case going in the OR, he will be the last one that they let go. He'll have to stay there working until 7 p.m. But once 7 p.m. hits, the night crew is there and he gets relieved to come home regardless of what's going on. So we are planning to have dinner together since we pick my husband up tomorrow. My son and I tend to like to eat at restaurants that aren't necessarily my husband's favorite. My husband eats really healthy all the time, and my son and I like to splurge every now and then. And so we very well may go to a Japanese steakhouse tonight and do the grill thing just for fun. But I'm looking forward to it, and I can stitch until he's home and ready to go. So I hope to hit my 500 stitches today, and if I do, I'll come back and show it to you. And if not, I'll talk to you hopefully tomorrow or Sunday. Happy stitching, everyone. Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Dina, and today I am working on my Simply Love for the School of Magical Stitches. This is a Glendon Place piece. It is my second Glendon Place piece. As you just saw recently, I finished my first one that I had started. So this is a similar piece in that it's in silk, and I have to complete each cross as I go. I do have this piece on my floor stand, and so that I can stitch two-handed, which is what I prefer to do. And I hope that you can see well enough. I will preview this and see if it's any good before I put it out there. But I do hope that you can see well enough to enjoy the stitch with me. I hope you're stitching with me as you go. I won't record for very long doing this, simply because I don't know how well this is coming across. But I thought what I would do is talk to you a little bit today about stitching this piece that I'm working on. I have thoroughly enjoyed this piece, and if you're looking to do a Glendon Place for the first time, this might be a good one to start. The colors are beautiful, they're highly variegated, and they are absolutely like butter. You know, that to stitch with the silk is just wonderful. But what I like about this piece is that it has blocks of color. They're not so big that you get bored with them, but they are nice swirls of color. So then, for instance, I've got this section I'm stitching on right now, and I'm using a Dinky Dyes called Merlot. Number is number 36. It's a Dinky Dyes silk. And you can see how variegated this is. But this entire section of this little paisley will be done in this Merlot, and then I'll be able to tie it off, and then I go to another section. For instance, here's one, and then here was one, and now I'm doing this smaller little section of the paisley. So for me, that is easy to follow. It's easy to count. Things are fairly close together, so I don't have too much trouble worrying about counting errors. Now, when I first started this piece, if you have been watching my videos for any length of time, you may be aware that I was very concerned about symmetry. I really wanted the piece to match on both sides of this heart. So I fussy cut the silk quite a bit. I would stitch one side, one section. Let's say I would stitch this. Then I would go and make sure I started at the exact same part of the thread on the next two strands that I used and stitch up. And I did that here all the way up to about right here. Then when I got to these little tops of these paisleys, I noticed these aren't as variegated. This dark purple isn't, and this red isn't quite as variegated as others. And so I thought, well, now I don't have to worry quite so much about them matching. In addition to that, I have tried really hard to make these flowers match on the two sides as closely, as I can, because they are supposed to give an appearance of a flower, and flowers are usually a little more evenly distributed. Their colors are usually pretty evenly distributed throughout the petals. So I'm trying to make it look, as real as possible. So that's That's what I'm doing with that. I am relieved now to be out of that center portion where I'm so worried about everything matching up, you know, on the two sides. So it's going a little bit quicker because I'm not fussy cutting anything again. So I'll talk to you a little bit about my stitching. I do stitch with my dominant hand underneath. I was very interested recently in some comments that Caroline made from Off the Grid about how you're supposed to stitch when you stitch two-handed. But the truth be told, I stitch the way I'm comfortable stitching. And so if it's wrong, I'm sorry. But this is what makes me more comfortable. Now, when I do get fatigue, say in my shoulder or, you know, in this left arm where I'm doing most of the pulling here, then I will swap. And I will give my hands a rest by doing the opposite of what I've been doing. I have noticed when I do that, I'm not as quick, I'm not as efficient. But that's okay, because it's not a race. You know, I'm stitching because I'm enjoying stitching on the piece. I am a project stitcher. I do like to stitch things that I want to bring to a finish. I don't start anything just to have the pleasure of stitching on it. For me, what I choose to stitch is something that I'm going to stitch toward a finish with the ultimate goal of finishing. And that's just how I work. I get satisfaction out of each step along the way as I feel like I'm making progress. I don't try not to feel pressured about it, but I will tell you this, as I get closer to a finish, I think you've seen this if you watch my videos, as a piece starts getting close to a finish, I start wanting to finish it even more. And then it sort of becomes a focus for me. Flowers of the Holy Night was a really good example of that. I was using it quite a bit for the School of Magical Stitches, for Christmas stitching in July, for Christmas stitching, every excuse I could use to be able to work on that piece, I did. And I was making great progress on it because, especially from the School of Magical Stitches, when you have a prompt that's 500 stitches, you know, that's a substantial amount of stitching for the day on a piece, and you can really see some progress. And if you do that a time or two, you really can see progress. And when I see something really progressing that quickly, and I know I only have this much left, I start becoming more focused on it, and I will stay up later or wind up changing my planned rotation or my planned progress to give myself more time to work on a piece, to bring it to a closure and get it finished. You can see now the thread has changed to a different section in the variegation, so it looks much lighter right here. And I think that's just lovely. It's such a pretty look. Okay, sorry for that interruption. I got a phone call. I've not ever filmed one of these Stitch With Me's before, so I didn't think about turning my phone in airplane mode. I've heard you guys mention it before, but it just didn't dawn on me to do that today. I will also tell you that I have it where it's off camera, but my working copy of my pattern is on a pattern holder positioned up at an angle so I can see it easily and mark it easily. And when I follow the pattern, you know, it's right here at my eye level where I can check it after each row and just make sure I'm going to the next correct number. Okay, I went in the wrong hole there, so let's correct that right away. But then when I finish a section, whether it's where I've gone far enough that I'm beginning to get confused as to where I'm at, then I'll go and I highlight all the stitches on my working copy that I've completed in that section so far. So at a glance, when I look up, I'm looking right at where I left off. And when I do the highlighting of a section, that's when I count my stitches. People have asked me about that. They've asked me about how do I count stitches, and that's exactly how I do it. So I would get to this portion of this little motif where I wanted to either mark my place if I'm getting confused, or if I run out of my length of thread before I start another one, I go ahead and highlight that section, count the stitches, and I just keep a running total on a piece of paper, a piece of scrap paper on my desk here, my working area, and that's how I count up my stitches. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed stitching with me for a few minutes. I'm not gonna keep you watching this much longer. I need to stop and kind of take a look at it, I guess, myself, just to see if it's clear enough that you can even see what I'm doing. But I hope you've enjoyed watching me work on the Simply Love, and I will continue doing this today until I hit my 500 stitches. I'm right at 300 now, so I have been stitching a little while since I filmed the first segment about my mail that I received today. Anyway, I hope you are enjoying your stitching, and I will talk to you again soon. Happy stitching, everyone. Hello, everyone. I'm back. It's still July 26th. It is later in the day. It is almost 7 p.m. I'm hoping my son will be able to get off work in a few minutes and we'll get to go to dinner. But I did it. I finished my last prompt for the extra credit in School of Magical Stitches for July, August. That is just amazing. I'm so excited about it. The last thing that I had to do was meet a prompt where we had to stitch on something that had spheres in it, circles, or cylinders, or glass bubbles or globes or whatever. So what I was able to do was to work on my Simply Love, and I actually put a little piece of filming in here. I may leave it in. I'll try to make myself do that, where I was doing just a little bit of talking about this piece while I was stitching on it. So it's the closest thing I've ever done to a stitch with me. But this is the piece I'm working on, and the reason I'm working on it is that there are little white spheres. They're circles. It's very hard for you to see them on here, so I'm going to see if you can see them better on my actual pattern of what I've stitched. So this is where I got to today, and I'm going to bring this up, and there you go. You can see those. See all of these little circles around here, here, here. They're white, and it's just kind of hard to see unless you get it just in the right light. So today I had to stitch 500 stitches, and I did. I got 513. And the way I did that is I started with this purple part of the paisley. Then I did this part. This is the piece I did on the Stitch With Me portion. I did pretty much that whole thing. I think I got down to about right here before I stopped. And then I stitched 3 of the circles. So I actually stitched spheres working on that today. And I did this little motif here twice. Yeah, my last motif of the day. I stitched it, but where I was supposed to be coming off of one of these sides here, my first time I stitched it, I was counting off this little circle, and I thought I was up here and I was here. And I counted from here and I stitched it down here and left this big gap here. And I didn't notice it because I was watching FlossTube until I was almost finished with it. I literally had 20 stitches left in this motif to finish it when I realized that it was over here. I had to frog it all out, and then I had to restitch that whole motif. So I'm glad I made it. I'm glad I got it back in there. and that gave me my 513 stitches. So got this section right here, all of this done today, and you can see the heart coming together. So I'm really excited. Next time I work on it, I will come down here and do the mirror image of this piece here, get that over here, and then I can start working on that. And then of course the piece becomes a little more narrow as it goes to the bottom. So this is where I'm working right now, up in here. And then I'm about to get on the second one of these. So then I'll just have this portion to do at the bottom, which will be a little bit smaller. But this is an easy stitch. You would enjoy it if you worked on it, I'm pretty sure. So quite an accomplishment. I can take a deep breath. And now tomorrow I'll enjoy my stitching meetup. And I think what I'm taking with me are the pieces I want to take with me to the retreat. And I'm going to use my stitching meetup as a time to start stitching those outlining on another one of my projects. I've already got one done that way, and now I'm going to try to work on a second one tomorrow. So I have two that I can do fill-in stitching on. And that's what I'll take with me to New Jersey. I hope you've had a good day. I certainly have. And it promises to be a wonderful evening. And then tomorrow is quite exciting. And I can't wait to share it with you later. Happy stitching, everybody. And I'll see you soon. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is Dina, and today is Sunday. It is the 28th day of July. Oh my goodness, the month is almost over. Well, today I have been busy. I've been stitching on several prompts in Cheryl McKinney's group, the 30 Minutes a Day sale, because I've been working on the slumber party prompts, and wanted to try to get those finished a little bit early before I get out of town to go to New Jersey. And those prompts for this time have been listed in her Facebook group and have evolved around activities to do with a slumber party. So the first one that I worked on was the food prompt, about all the food that you eat at slumber parties. And I used my sister's special project for that, and I'm not going to share it with you today simply because I'm taking it with me to New Jersey, and I'll get a lot more progress on it. I only had to do 100 stitches on that one today, so I did a little tiny, couple of strips of stitching on it. So I'll wait, and I'll share that with you when I get back from New Jersey, because I hope to have a lot more progress on it then. There were several other prompts that were in Cheryl's party, her slumber party post, and one of them was about your favorite slumber party memory. One was about your favorite scented candle and the color of your candle. And there have just been, I think, 6 prompts, but all but 2 of those prompts I'm using the same whip for. So I have now finished working on it, and I will therefore show you my total progress rather than giving it to you 100 stitches at a time or 200 stitches at a time. So the one I've been using is my Glendon Place project, Simply Love. And if you'll recall, I was working over here on this outer side doing this little paisley right here. And I had gotten this one done, this little motif done last. But since I've been working on this, I've put in a total of 305 stitches today on it. And so I'll show you what I've gotten done. I've come down here and I've gotten this completed before. So I've come over here and done this motif here. And I've come over here and I've started this long copy of this motif. So I've come through and done that part of it for now. So I've made good progress on it. You can kind of see how it's coming along, and I'm coming on down the side over here, and now I'll have another big paisley here, and I'll almost be even with the other side. So great progress for that. I got to work on it more this month than I thought I would since I was doing so much Christmas stitching. But now I'm ready to put it away and to start a little more stitching maybe this evening on one of my Christmas pieces so that I can end up the month continuing to do the Christmas stitching. There is one piece that's Christmas that I have not touched yet, and it is the Nativity. And so my hope is to get a little bit of that done this evening. Then I have a busy week getting ready to get out of town for New Jersey, and I hope I'll get a little stitching done, but in case I don't, I'll go ahead and explain the last clip that I'm going to put on this video. As you know, I mentioned that I was picking my husband up from his latest hike yesterday, and we have had a wonderful evening of sharing stories of what happened on his hike and what happened on the home front while he was gone. And then this morning he shared with me a little montage of photographs that he had put together and little snippets of his hike that he had recorded along the way. And he actually put it into a small movie clip. So I asked him to share it with me, and he did. He airdropped it to me this morning. So at the end of the video, if you're interested, you'll be able to see footage from my husband's hike of the Sierra Mountains. And he started at the Sequoia National Park, and they hiked through part of the Sierra Mountains up to and summited Mount McKinley. Mount Whitney. And he's got pictures of them at the summit. And then on their way back down, and they exited out through Death Valley and drove back through there to Las Vegas. So he's got some pictures of that also. It's just a few minutes, and so I thought you might enjoy seeing the countryside that he was able to enjoy on this latest hike, and the people that he met. He went with two gentlemen that he has hiked with and biked with in the past. They're from Warner Robins, Georgia, and you'll see lots of pictures of them. They're both very tall men, much taller than he is. They're with him in the summit picture. Then they met up along the way with a group of guys from California and a few guys from Florida. And so my husband nicknamed them the Florida boys, the Georgia boys, and the California boys. And that was sort of their crew. And at one point, there's a picture of all of them. They didn't know each other before the hike, and they met up on the trail and wound up hiking most of it together. I do think they all came out at different times, but a lot of them were at the summit together. So that was a great memory for him and a good way for him to meet new friends, just like I meet friends at stitching events. So he had a great time, and I think that the scenery is so beautiful. I wanted to share it with you. He did mention today that because we live in a very urban community most of the time, we forget how vast and beautiful our country is. And so I hope this will give you a moment to see a different part of our geography here in the United States. This is part of California. And these mountains are very different than the mountains that he hikes here in Georgia. They look totally different because they're through a desert. He has lots of great stories, and some of them I may remember to share with you as I go along. But for now, I hope you enjoy the footage, and I will put it at the very end of this video in case you're interested. And that way, if you're not, you can just exit out before it. I hope you guys have a great week ahead of you of stitching. I hope to have a safe trip to New Jersey, and I hope everyone who's traveling there for that retreat gets there safely and without complications. Those are my wishes for you all. Happy stitching, everyone, and I'll talk to you soon. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is Dina, and I am here to give you an update. Today is Monday. It is the 29th of July, and I have been busily working on my Magical Stitches homework. I had originally copied or made a saved post where I had put all of the 5 prompts in, and I had even come up with a plan on how to do 4 of the 5, and I had an answer for the one that I wasn't sure of, but I didn't want to do it. I was going to have to do 1/1 stitching on a chatelaine to get it done, and here I am trying to get ready to go out of town. So I thought about it, and I looked at what all I have to get done between now and the Thursday morning early flight that I have to go to New Jersey. And my son is actually off work tomorrow and has asked if he could spend the day with his dad and I before we go out of town. So I decided I was going to have to do penalty stitches this time. I just don't have the whole week to work on it, and I wanted to do my part. So I decided to do the penalty, which is 1,000 stitches on anything you want to stitch, and then you have to tell why you're in the hallway. We are in the hallway, according to the movie, to distract everyone because the students are trying to learn how to defend themselves against the dark arts, and Harry Potter is teaching that class. But they're trying to find us, so we're distracting people in the hallway. So if you did the penalty stitches, you had to tell why you were in the hall. And I was, of course, in the hall because I was running around trying to gather up everything I needed for a trip to the Muggle world, because I was going to a Muggle stitching retreat, because rumor has it that magic is done there, that these stitchers are creating magical pieces. And so I have to go check that out. I've been assigned to do that. So I'm in the hallway because I'm rushing around getting ready to go to this Muggle stitching retreat. So I picked my other Glendon place. This is one that was gifted to me, and I started on it. I couldn't wait to start on it, and I didn't realize until I was working on it today that this would have been my 3rd Glendon place that I had going until I finished my Flowers of the Holy Night. So this month is, of course, Christmas stitching in July and stitching for Diana's birthday. So I pulled this back out because I hadn't had a chance to work on it quite as much. And I wanted to put my 1,000 stitches in this today. So I will insert a picture here of where it was when I started. And now here is where I got to today. So I did the entire greenery down both columns. I got both lanterns in, and I got this window shade or shutter completely done, and this one almost done. It's got the bottom and one more side to do. But I already had 1,017 stitches, and so I wanted to go ahead and put this away for this time and work on it, again later. Now, if you're sharp and you were paying really close attention, or if you've stitched this before, you'll notice there's a difference between this one and this one. The difference is the shutters. I made a mistake on this dark green outline in the shutter on the first one that I was doing. I started at the top, I did the top, and I started down, and I had already stitched this whole column here in that green, and then I just came over here and started here till my thread ran out. And then I thought I was being very wise, and I started my next length of thread at the bottom so that I would know only how far to go, and I could just work my way up. And then I didn't look at my pattern. And I just connected that bottom to that top and went right on. I didn't realize it until I started filling in the green and thought, wait a minute, I'm supposed to have 2 bars here. But I would have had to frog out the entire thing to get it out. And I thought, it's a shutter. It could be solid if I want it to be. It's not going to change much. So I just matched the other one to it. So that's one of those things where you make a mistake and then you highlight it. You just let it go. So that's what I did. It doesn't change my count. It's not going to make anything else off. And it looks just fine. So that's my progress on I'll Be Home for Christmas by Glendon Place. So now I am packing. Tomorrow we're spending the day with our son and hopefully having a meal with him, and I will still be doing some work to get ready to go. Hello everyone, thank you for joining me. This is Dina and today is Friday. It is August the 2nd. I am here to give you a bit of a life update and also to share with you some stitching progress that I've had over the last 24 to 48 hours. First, let's start with the life update. I did not make it to New Jersey to the stitching retreat. We had a family emergency. It was very unexpected. Our son actually had developed what looked to be a split and a callus on the bottom of his foot, and he stands on his feet all day working, and it was beginning to really hurt. So I suggested that we run up to the local med stop on his day off and see if they could either steri-strip it back together or give him some liquid skin or advise him what to do to just make that more comfortable for him. We had actually all been to the gym that day, myself and my husband and my son, and we'd all been walking the track and working out in the weight rooms together. And it was after that that we went over to the med stop, my son and I. I just rode with him or drove him over just for, companionship, just so he wouldn't be by himself. And we got there, and as the nurse was checking him in and taking a look at his foot, she did the typical, take your blood pressure kind of thing, and he was in AFib. He was having a very hard time breathing, but I thought that was just from the exertion of getting out of the car and rushing into the med stop and doing that. He's a very heavy person, and so it takes a lot of energy for him to move around. And so I've been concerned about the difficulty he's had in breathing in the last few weeks, but I wasn't quite sure what to do about that, although I had said to him, I think you're having a harder time. It sounds like you are. So the nurse began checking his blood pressure in both arms, and the next thing you know, here comes another nurse in who's a cardiac nurse, and she gets an EKG, and that's how they find out that he's in AFib. So long story short, my son was transported by ambulance from the med stop to the hospital. They would not allow me to take him. They advised strongly against it. His heart was flip-flopping in and out of rhythm while he was there. They took 3 EKGs back to back, and they were all different. So that was a little scary for all of us, and I went to the ER and waited on my son to get there. It took them about 20 minutes because they wouldn't leave the parking lot with him until they had him stable and knew he was going to be okay. And so he went into the emergency room, was admitted, and even at that point, they were telling us they thought it might be sleep apnea and they could get him a referral for a sleep study and everybody would be good to go. So the first day, we really thought he was just there for observation. He wound up getting admitted that night. He was put on a heart monitor, and they discovered that his heart was stopping. And I was sitting in his room with him the next morning. I had come back to the hospital to sit with him, and his heart stopped. And it stopped for a long enough time that the monitor tech who was watching his screen upstairs, and they have it in a centralized location, actually called on the emergency phone, and the nurses, about 4 of them, came rushing in there to wake him up and make sure he was okay, and neither he nor I knew anything about it. So sleep apnea is a very serious condition. It's not just snoring. It is very life-threatening. At least his is to that point. So they put him on a CPAP machine in the hospital, had him stay another night to monitor, to know how to set his loaner up, because they wouldn't let him be discharged without a CPAP machine. His heart stopped another 7 times before he was ever discharged. They're telling me this is going to be a usual occurrence, but for very short periods of time until he gets his sleep apnea under control. So we've had a bit of a scare and a little bit of a tense time the last few days. I just want to thank each and every one of you who knew. There were a few people who knew. I did let the people at the retreat know that I couldn't come. I didn't want people wondering where I was and worrying that I'd had an accident on the way there. And I've gotten such sweet messages. Thank you all so much for your kind thoughts and messages for my son and for my husband and I. And some of my closest friends knew. And were, lifting us in their prayers, and we felt every one of them, and we thank you for that. I am so happy to report that my son is now home. We came home late yesterday. That would be August the 1st, about 5 p.m. And he was exhausted, but happy to be home. And after a really good dinner and shower, he went to bed with his new CPAP machine. So he said this morning he felt more rested, and he had an appointment this morning with a pulmonologist to set him up for the sleep study that he's having on his birthday here in August. And so it looks as if, though, what this means for him is that they don't recommend that he travel out of country for the 10 days that he was going to be gone to Japan in September quite yet, till they know they have his heart rhythm straightened out. He's on medication now to straighten out his heart rhythm. He's on a blood thinner because the way the heart rhythm was going in and out of AFib and tachycardia, it can create blood clots, and you can sling those into your brain and have a stroke. And so he's on blood thinner to prevent strokes, and he's on a heart regulator to regulate the speed that his heart is beating. And then as soon as he can get his sleep study, he'll have his own CPAP machine that will be even more calibrated for him. They did an emergency sort of Band-Aid for now because they weren't going to let him go home without one. So as I said, sleep apnea can be quite scary because all of this is coming from his sleep apnea. So we're hoping to get that treated, and then we can go from there. So that's the life update. Now let's move on to what you're here for. Let's move on to the stitching. So yes, in case some of you were wondering, when I realized my son was going to be in the hospital overnight, the next day when I went, I took cross stitch with me. I didn't take it the first time. I didn't think I'd be anywhere long enough. So I took a project with me that I had packed away, ready to go to the retreat in New Jersey. So I just grabbed a little case that I was going to take with me and took it to the hospital. So I had everything I needed. So Stephanie, you have to look away because the first project I worked on was for you, and I don't want you to see it yet. Okay, everyone else, I'll remind you that this is the project I'm working on for my sister Stephanie. And this time I worked on the other side of the piece, and I did that to meet a prompt in Cheryl McKinney's Facebook group. So I came over on this side and I finished up all of these items here. And now what I have left on that side is I am down to these right here. So that is going really well, but my intention is to come down to about right here, come down to here, and then tackle this huge thing in the middle. So once again, this is the whole piece so far. And I think that's coming along really well. So I did get a little bit done on that. Stephanie, you can look back now. Thank you for looking away. Everyone's always asking me if you really look away, and I'm so happy to be able to tell them that you really do. She's assured me that she does. Okay, so I did that a little bit that first day that I was sitting with my son, and he wound up having to spend the night again in the hospital. So the next day I worked on my second project that I had planned to take with me to New Jersey, and that is this little house neighborhood. So I worked up here and did it for another prompt. I was working on the tree. I needed stitches, a certain number of stitches, and I finished the outline or the branches and the trunk of that tree. And as you can tell, I had outlined the house, the windows, because I was going to do fill-in stitching in New Jersey. So next time I pick it up, I can hopefully get a little more of that done. Okay, let's move on to today's stitching. Today, after I got back from the pulmonologist with my son, I was able to get some stitching in, and so I was working on my acrostic for 24 hours of cross stitch, and one of the letters is C, and I chose castles. Can you imagine which one it is? It is the Seaside Kingdom. There's the sand castle. This is the pattern, and this is my version. So today I worked a little bit more on the girl, and I was able to finish her arm and hand. She's holding her little hand out like this, and she's going to have a little star sitting in it. But that is her complete arm and hand. And then I came down and started working more on the big bow right on the back of her dress. And you can see the first of my color conversions for her dress. There's a few of the dark pink poking through where her apron would have little pieces of her dress showing through. So today on that piece, I just did a little over 230 or so stitches, 240, somewhere in there. For a prompt on the 24 hours, and decided that I would put it away for now so I could look at meeting some other prompts in the acrostic, or just pull out something that I just want to stitch on. So it is a stitch-a-thon weekend, and we are allowed to use more than one whip. Usually I think they prefer you to keep it to 2. So I'm going to pick a whip that I want to get a lot of stitches in on, and I'm going to get some stitches in for the Stitch-a-thon weekend, I hope. I want to thank you again for letting me give you an update on my family going on. Our children are very precious to us, as all of you know that have them, that you know what it's like when one of them is hurting or in danger, how you feel helpless but not hopeless. And so I just wanted to thank you all for your encouragement and for lifting up my family up. Your friendship means a lot, and your prayers were very much felt and appreciated. So from now on, until I have another update for you, happy stitching, and we'll talk soon. Hi everyone, welcome back. This is Dina. Today is Saturday. It's August the 3rd. And whew, I've got a lot of different things I've been working on this weekend. We have a Stitch-a-thon and Cross Stitch Finish Line that I've been working on. And also, Cheryl McKinney put up a new challenge yesterday called the Psychedelic Salt Mine Challenge. And so the first prompt in it is to stitch 650 stitches in a project of your choice, but it's to represent the 650 feet that we have to descend to get into the mine. So I had already started working on the Stitchathon last evening, and I had gotten around 270 something stitches, 274 stitches yesterday on Seaside Kingdom. And I've already shown you a video of that, or a clip of that just ahead that I did late last night. Then this morning I decided that one's a little bit harder to see, so I'm going to pick up and continue working on the Stitchathon on Simply Love. And I started working on it, and then I realized I hadn't recorded anything from Cheryl's post, and I needed to go review it because I was thinking there was one in there that was a lot of stitches that this could all, maybe I could work on all of this at the same time, which is what I like to do whenever I can. So sure enough, that worked out. That 650 stitches that I needed for the descent could be part of my Stitchathon weekend. And since I had 274 stitches already kind of hanging out there in the first whip I started on, I knew we can use at least 2 for the Stitchathon. And I thought, well, I'm going to keep going on this one till I can hit at least 1,000 so I can get my name in twice on the Stitchathon. And that would more than hit the 650 needed for Cheryl's prompt. So that's what I did. So here is Simply Love now. When we left off, or when I left off, the last time I worked on it, I was right here. I had done these motifs here. So this weekend, I did these little white circles. There's 3 of them here. 1, 2, 3, actually 4 there. And then I did all of this whole set of swirls in here. And I came over here, I did this flower, and I continued this on down here, and I did this flower. So quite a lot. Got a lot done in this piece. So it's almost even. I got a little bit more to do here, and I've got the motif that will match up this one to do over here, and I will have it completely even all the way down, which will be wonderful. That'll be awesome. So that was my progress for that challenge. And now I've met that first prompt, and I'm gonna try to knock out at least one more or so of those today because they're 100 stitches each. So that's what I'm gonna work on. And I will try to get as much of the Cheryl's challenge, even though it runs through the 16th. I try to get mine done as much as I can, as soon as I can, because I never know how much stitching I'm going to get, especially right now. So things are going really well here. Our son is feeling great, feeling much better today, even more rested than yesterday. His dad and he have gone to grab a quick bite for lunch, and I'm going out to dinner tonight with my husband and some friends from church, so I'm saving my big meal for this evening. But I am enjoying my stitching. I feel much more centered and relaxed now that everything's kind of settled down. And so I may have some more updates for you today on another prompt. I don't know, but whatever I finish today, I'll share with you. And then I will probably wrap this on up and publish it before it gets too long. But I will check it and see how much footage I have. I want to attach my husband's footage of his hike, so I may keep the stitching a little bit shorter so that it doesn't overtax you. I'll talk to you soon. As soon as I have anything else to share with you, I'll be back. In the meantime, happy stitching, everyone.
keep moving.